Hey everybody, it's Lon.TV, and today we're taking a look at the new Valve Index VR headset. I've been playing with this for the last couple of days, and I'm ready to give you my thoughts on it. I'm kind of torn because I have a lot of things I'm not happy about, including Valve's customer support, but there are things that I do like, and I'm going to give you the good, the bad, and the reality here in the course of this review. I've been a big fan of virtual reality overall since it came out on the PC a couple of years ago. I was an owner, and still am, of a first-generation HTC Vive. I bought it right when it came out, and I was totally blown away by how great that experience was. I was expecting more out of this product, and unfortunately, it does not yet deliver what I was hoping it would. But I do want to let you know, in the interest of full disclosure, that I paid the full $1,000 price tag for this kit out of my own funds. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. Nobody is paying for this review, nor has anyone reviewed or approved what you're about to see before it is uploaded. So let's get into it now and see what this headset is all about. So let's take a closer look now at the hardware. I opted to go with the full kit, which includes the headset, 2 sensors that you have to hook up in your room, and 2 of these knuckle controllers. Again, the cost on that full kit was $1,000. Now, if you have an existing HTC Vive, you don't need to buy everything. You could just buy the headset, for example, or you could buy the headset and the controllers. Or if you just want to play around with the controllers, you can buy them separately and use it with your existing Vive setup. In fact, the first generation HTC Vive sensors will work with the new system, but the new sensors work better. They have a longer range. They tend to be a little bit more accurate, and I found them to be better in my room because I was able to space them a little bit further apart. Now, the way you set the sensors up is that you have to mount them on opposite corners of your room. The new sensors now have some additional mounting options, including a wall mount. What I did with mine is I bought some cheap light stands that you might use for photography or video, and I mounted them on the top of those with a little adapter. They have basically tripod mount holes on them, so you can even use a traditional tripod if you want, just to get them set up. They do recommend to get them as high as possible, which is why those cheap light posts seem to work the best for me. But you can even drill them into your wall if you are setting up a permanent installation. But you do need those sensors because without them, this thing doesn't work at all. I was very pleased with the headset in my initial experience with it because one of the things that this headset brings to the mix is a higher resolution over the first generation HTC Vive. It also has a higher resolution versus the new Oculus Rift S. So what you're going to get out of each eye is a 1400 by 1600 resolution on it, and it's noticeably better when you first put it on. The field of view is also better, and you'll have a better experience if you don't wear glasses, because what you can do, of course, is adjust the headset distance here to accommodate glasses, but when you push it out further, the field of view becomes a little bit more narrow. But it really is a noticeable difference. It will fill up your field of vision more than the original HTC Vive did. And I was very, very impressed with that initial first experience because everything looked better, it was higher resolution, a better field of view. And the other thing that this headset can do differently than other VR systems is deliver your VR experience at a higher frame rate. It'll go from 90 to 120 to 144 hertz, depending on how you have it configured and how powerful your computer is. And altogether, that combination of faster frame rate, higher resolution, and better field of view provided a much better initial experience for me when I got started with it. But there are some issues that have cropped up since then, which I'll get to in a few minutes. Now, Valve went with a different display technology versus some of the other VR headsets that are out on the market. They went with LED displays in here, and they did that so they can hit those higher frame rates. Most of the other VR headsets out there use OLEDs. And the difference between OLED and LED is that OLED delivers a much deeper black, a much better contrast ratio, which makes a difference, I think, when you've got a headset on, especially if you're playing a game that's set in space. So as a result, you will see a little bit more of a glow around blacks on this headset, but I do think it's a fair trade-off in the sense that the image quality is so much better out of here that you don't really notice the difference in contrast ratio. But if you are someone who is sensitive to that sort of thing, it will be something you will notice, and it is a different kind of display than what you might be accustomed to in other VR devices. Now, on the front of the headset, you can take off this front visor, and underneath it is something called the Frunk. And here is something that Valve hopes developers will begin making things for. There's a USB port in here, so you could add things maybe like a hand sensor or some other device that would plug in. At the time I'm recording this video, there is nothing yet to go in the Frunk, but Valve is hoping that some hardware developers might start thinking of things that you can attach to your VR headset, and I'm sure we'll see a lot of fun ideas develop as time goes on. On the front here are two cameras, and these are not used for tracking, but they are used for allowing you to see what is outside your VR environment. You can actually overlay reality with your virtual reality, which might be helpful for avoiding obstacles if you're trying to step a little bit beyond the boundaries that you've set, or perhaps some AR apps that might come out in the future. So you have that option there, and of course there are two cameras here which will give you some 3D stereo vision. The audio here is also very nice. It's integrated onto the headset itself. So these little headphones here just sit over your ears. They don't touch your ears, and you can very easily push them out of the way if you want to have a conversation with somebody in the room. They're not as good as a pair of over-the-ear headphones might be. That's what I was using before, but it's a lot more convenient now just to have these things available, and the audio fidelity on them is very nice and surprisingly good. So that was a good experience. Putting the headset on is also easier than the Vive in my experience. What you do is just tilt the headset up like so, and you put it over the back of your head and then just lower it down and get it adjusted. There's a knob here on the back for tightening it, and there's also a Velcro strap here on the top. But it's much easier to get in and out of, and it's also much easier if you have friends over to get them into the experience pretty quickly. Now, while it is easy to get the headset put on, I did find that it was not always comfortable during extended play sessions, and that is due to the fact that there's no padding here by the nose, and this is where I was feeling the most amount of discomfort over a longer play session. So maybe they can add something here to just make that part a little bit more comfortable. I did find, though, that it isolated light much better than my HTC Vive did, so I'm not getting that much light leaking in from the bottom like I did on that other headset. And I also like the fact that the padding here is very easily removable, so I can see getting a couple of different pads here for when friends come over. You can very easily swap them out and clean them because you can get kind of sweaty inside one of these VR headsets. They have a few other adjustments to take a look at. One is down here. This is the IPD adjustment, and what this does is it moves the lenses back and forth based on what your interpupillary distance is, which is basically the distance between the pupils of your eyes. One of the challenges, though, is actually figuring out what that measurement is, and I'm looking for some advice on that. What I've been doing is just going into the VR home screen and then just trying to get it set to what looks the best to me, but it would be nice to get a better idea of that. As you move this, you will get an on-screen indicator as to exactly where the position of the lenses are as you adjust it. Now, like any PC VR system, there is a cable that will tether you to your computer at all times. So you want to make sure that you have enough room before you get started. Otherwise, you might rip your computer off the desk or something. But I found the cable length to be very good. In fact, it's a little bit longer than my HTC Vive cable was. All of my connectors on my PC are in the back of my tower, and it had enough room for everything. Now, on the other end of the cable, there are three connectors. One is for power. The other two connect to your computer. There's a USB 3.0 cable that has to get plugged into a USB 3.0 slot on the back of your computer. Many computers have USB 2.0 slots back there too, so you want to make sure you plug it into the right port so that it actually works. The other thing you'll need is a full-size display port, and you'll find that on the back of your graphics card. Most graphics cards on the desktop have the full-size connector, which looks like this here. But if you have a high-end gaming laptop, you might have a mini DisplayPort connector, and then one of these adapters will work just fine to get it all up and running. I use this adapter on my Alienware laptop, and everything worked out just great. Your computer may have a Thunderbolt port. You could plug in a USB-C to DisplayPort adapter there to get the same results. So just make sure you've got all the right things before you get started. Unfortunately, they don't pack in any adapters in the box. So if you don't have a full-size DisplayPort connector, you'll need to get one. So let's shift gears now to the controller. And I really like the design of these controllers, but right now they are significantly flawed. It's all fixable, but I think everyone who got these early is going to have to send them back, and I'll talk about why in a minute. Now, the concept here is that the controller is not something you hold, but something that holds on to you. So when you put your hand in the controller like so, you pull on this cable to get it tight, and then it will sit in your hand. Even if you start flopping around with it, it doesn't go anywhere. It's very comfortable, I think, and it's kind of a neat approach to VR because you don't have to hold anything unless you're holding something in the virtual environment. And when you do hold on to something, it will detect the position of your fingers as you do it. I did find that you have to get your hand positioned properly in the controller so it can recognize all three of these fingers the right way. There are capacitive sensors here in the grip that detect when those fingers are placed down. It'll also detect how hard you're gripping the controller too, so you can adjust that in the game that you're playing. And of course, the games have to support that. Your index finger is controlled here on the trigger, but it also can very finely detect when you place that finger down, and then your thumb will be detected when it touches the top of the controller here. It's really cool. It actually works out quite well, and I just like this notion of the controller holding on to you versus the prior HTC Vive controllers that Valve also designed that required being held at all times. It works just a lot better. The controller really works well in one of my favorite games, Beat Saber, because on the HTC Vive controller, I was constantly hitting the button here at the bottom by accident, which was pulling up the menu. That is no longer happening with these controllers. You really have to work to get the menu pulled up by pushing onto this button here. So that is good, and it tracks very well. All great, but here's the problem. These controllers have a significant problem with their thumbstick here. So what happens right now is that if you have the thumbstick pushed all the way over to the left or the right, you can't click the stick. It just doesn't click. So that's something that is going to impact games that would require some kind of thumbstick click. The other issue is that when you have the thumbstick in a full position, like pushed all the way back or forward, it loses its connection. And a lot of VR games do something called teleporting, where if you want to go further away than your VR space allows you to do, you can hold down the thumbstick and kind of push it in the direction that you want to go. It'll pull up a little thing on screen so you can adjust exactly where you want to land, and then you let go of the stick and it will drop you off in that spot. What's happening here, though, is the second I push it all the way forward, it just automatically moves me forward because it's losing its connection here at the top. So there's something really wrong with this thumbstick, and there's a lot of people right now on the Valve Index Reddit forum that are having the same exact issue. And I think those of us who got this on the first batch will likely be sending these controllers back for repair. It's a physical hardware problem that will not be addressable via software, unfortunately. But the controllers are not the only issue I am having with the Valve Index. I'm also having optical issues with the headset itself. When I first put this on the other night, the first thing I noticed was that I was seeing a bit of a jelly vision as I was moving my head back and forth. This is an effect in the digital video world known as rolling shutter. When you move the camera too quickly, things that are square sometimes get distorted, as you can see in this example that I'm running right now. And I'm seeing that to a lesser extreme inside the headset, and it's very distracting. And I've tried everything to rectify it. I've tried to get the headset adjusted the right way on my head. I have done everything I can think of, and I cannot get that effect to go away. It was never on my Vive. It is very noticeable on the Index. I went out onto the Reddit group for the Valve Index and posted my experiences, and nobody else seems to be having the same problem. So I think it might be a defect with this particular headset, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to get it fixed. Now, unfortunately, though, Valve's customer service is not known for being very good, and I was hoping that perhaps, given that there's not that many people who own these at the moment, and they're investing a lot of the company's resources into the development, that there would actually be somebody to respond to my customer service requests. But we're now a couple of days into my ticket being filed, and I have yet to hear back from anybody.
And I just want to jump in from the edit bay here. I did get a response late last night after the video was shot saying that they received my trouble ticket. And coincidentally, this came in just a few minutes after I tagged them on a community post on my YouTube channel. So we'll have to see if we get any resolution to this, but we're not there yet.
I then just tried to return it because I figured, you know what, if they're not going to get back to me, I may as well send it back and maybe buy it back again when they get all the kinks worked out. But when you go to fill out the refund request, it just flat out denies you automatically. And people with controller problems have no way to submit a ticket at all. You get to a screen where it asks you what is wrong with the controller, and there's nothing to do. There's no options, no form to fill out, nothing. And you're kind of stuck to just go back to the Reddit forum and hope that maybe somebody from Valve is listening and might try to help you, and I'm stuck with something that isn't working properly for the price that I paid for it, and I can't even get a refund requested. So I'll give them a couple more days, but I think what I may end up doing is just file a chargeback to get their attention, because right now I've got a broken controller and a somewhat dysfunctional headset, and I just want it resolved. I really like it, but it's not working the way it should, and I think Valve needs to really step up their customer service game, especially if they want to get into this kind of stuff. This is not some digital good they're reselling on behalf of somebody else. This is their product, and they were completely unprepared to support it when it was released, and I would strongly advise anyone looking to buy one of these things to hold off until they get everything figured out. So manufacturing issues aside, I do think this headset has potential to be the best one out there, at least as far as some of these first-generation VR experiences are concerned. I don't consider this a Generation 2 product. It still feels very much the same as my HTC Vive did with some improvements. And you also have to factor in the power of your PC. Now upstairs I have a gaming PC that I built about 4.5 years ago. It has a 4th generation Haswell i7 processor and a GTX 1080 GPU. That was more than enough for my HTC Vive. I was able to have great 90 frames per second experiences across the board and never really had anything that I could see was a problem. But when I switched this thing into 120 hertz mode, I was seeing even Beat Saber was having a hard time keeping up. And the reason is that my gaming PC upstairs, although it has a decent GPU, doesn't have enough memory bandwidth really to keep up with the demands of running this game at 120 frames per second. So as a result, my computer wasn't showing itself being maxed out, but it just wasn't delivering the frame rates. I then tried out my Alienware laptop, which has a newer, I think 7th generation i7 chip, a GTX 1070, but it was running with DDR4 RAM, which has more memory bandwidth. And what do you know? That lower powered GPU in the laptop was delivering better performance than my gaming desktop computer with that 1080 inside of it. So I think for the ideal Valve Index experience, you're probably looking at a $3,000 or $4,000 expenditure when you factor in the cost of the headset, the controllers, the sensors, and the PC that you need to drive this at its full potential. And unfortunately, Valve doesn't seem to be approaching this market the way they should. This is a premium product that should have premium customer service along with it, and that is lacking at the moment. My advice to you all is that if you don't have a super current gaming PC with at least a 1070 or greater GPU, you might be better off looking at the Vive or the Oculus Rift, because those are lower resolution devices that are running at lower frame rates that might be more compatible with your hardware, because you may not be able to use this thing to its full potential with what you have for your PC at the moment. If you have something more current, then definitely it's worth considering, but again, there is a steep price tag to this one versus some of the other VR headsets, and although it does look better, once you're in a VR game and experiencing things, I don't think you're going to be missing anything by opting for a less expensive option. This also speaks to some of the complexity of PC VR. Those of us who are into building gaming PCs and understand all the nuances of GPU, CPU, memory speed, and all that kind of stuff, this is fine. But I think for general consumers that want to experience VR, this is just too much. In fact, even the lower cost headsets are too much to factor in when you have to think about all these different things beyond just the purchase of the device itself. And I think that is why the Oculus Quest is becoming so interesting to consumers. And it's unfortunate, given how good this VR experience is on the PC, that more consumers can't enjoy it. But right now, it's just too complicated for them. And this thing does add a layer of complexity that even the other PC VR units don't have. It's easy to set up, but it's very difficult to get optimized for its full potential. That's going to do it for this one. Let me know what you thought down in the comments below. And until next time, this is Lon.TV. Thanks for watching.
This channel is brought to you by the Lon.TV supporters, including gold-level supporters, the Four Guys with Quarters podcast, Tom Albrecht, Brian Parker, and Kalyan Kumar. If you want to help the channel, you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Head over to lon.tv/support to learn more. And don't forget to subscribe. Visit Lon.TV/S.